Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome along to your Monday Night Rabble here on the Rangers Rabble Podcast, the Rabble Network, and also brought to you by the Talk Sport Fan Network as well. Joining me tonight, we've got Stuart and Callum. Stuart, how are you?
I've been better when it comes to football wise, Martin, but I've enjoyed my.
Outside of football. Outside of
Yeah, all
football.
good. Yes, I spent a few days down south in London over the weekend, which was magic, absolutely brilliant. A few days, and bank holiday today for me. I'm quite lucky. I get the bank holiday, so I managed to get a few things done that I had to do about the house and stuff. So for that front, all good. Football wise, yeah, not so good, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
What part of London, Stuart? I'm curious.
We're staying in Hammersmith. I was down for the Coldplay gig at Wembley, so did quite a wee bit of potting about, seeing a few.
Did they do the Coldplay cam at this one? Was there a Coldplay
They
cam?
did. He did, and he put a disclaimer out, giving you plenty. I decided beforehand not to take my head of HR with me on this trip. I thought that wouldn't be a good idea.
That's only because you are probably the head of HR.
Exactly. Yes, I wouldn't give that job to anybody else. That's me. So,
No.
yes, he gave prior warning for any of those who were with someone that they probably didn't want to be seen with, to make themselves scarce for that bit of the show.
Well, Callum, you can go to Coldplay again, mate. How are you?
No, I mean, obviously Rangers doing pretty terrible with that, awful at the weekend, and still pretty raging about it. But no, apart from that, good. Like Stuart, got the bank holiday off, so I was pretty buzzing with that. It's good to be in Glasgow today. So, no, doing good, guys. Hopefully, feel a wee bit better after discussing it with you all, but I doubt it. I don't think we'll have much positive of the day, but we'll try our best.
It was sunny today. We had sun. It was nice and warm. The sun was shining. Taps off weather. So that's the only positive. We're getting the day in at Fergie. That's it.
Rain tomorrow.
Sunny. Well, it is Scotland. It is Scotland, to be fair. Massive thank you to the famous RFC for the super chat. Next time, put your chat in and we can read it out, the famous. But thank you very, very much for the super chat. I mean, look, I talk a lot about Rangers on this. I talk a lot about Rangers, and so do a lot of other people. Should we just talk about something else? I don't know.
Just do a random rabble.
Does anybody on here know anything about ice hockey or basketball or NFL? Please stop me when you know something.
Talk about cricket. We could talk about cricket.
I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy to talk cricket for an hour, Stuart.
I'll talk cricket if you want to do that.
Yes. So, if we talked cricket, we'd be down to about 0 viewers in about 5 seconds. So, what about Coronation Street? London wants to talk about Coronation Street. I mean, I haven't watched it for about 25 years. So, question from something that was, I thought you were getting a haircut, Martin. I couldn't be bothered, is the short answer. Right, let's start, Stuart, right? Let's just start on Igamane, right? Get that out the way, get that distraction gone, and then we'll move on to the rest. Because I don't want Igamane to take away from what's happening with the team and the manager and all that, because, I mean, as we'll maybe discuss later, that might have been Martin's agenda. But let's start with Igamane. First of all, Stuart, thoughts on basically refusing to play?
I think tomorrow night's press conference will be interesting because Russell Martin's going to clearly be asked about it. And I think his response to it will be quite telling.
I be nippy about it.
Well, I kind of separate this into two parts. So the player themselves, I haven't been particularly impressed with Igamane since he came back. I think if we're being honest, so he's late back because of a visa issue. Now, that could be the club were maybe responsible for doing something, but you would also imagine that between him and his agent, etc., and the people representing him, they might have a part to play in making sure he's got the right visa to allow him to get back into the country. So that was a problem. He certainly appears to have enjoyed his summer holiday, because he looked clearly unfit when he came back. He's picked up knocks, etc. I think if we have an honest conversation about Igamane, he's clearly an extremely talented footballer, and we've seen flashes of that, and we've probably seen a period of 6-7 games where he was flying, and we all got very excited about his ability and what we might be able to ultimately move him on for, because that was going to happen. But I think if we do take a step back from that, then other than those wee flashes, we haven't seen that consistency in his performance I think you would be hoping for. And like I say, I think how he's returned from this trip, and clearly he's been impacted by the noise surrounding potential interest in him. I think that looks the case. Whether he has an injury or not, we don't know. None of us know the answer to that, or the only person who knows that is Hamza Igamane, whether he's genuinely injured.
I think, Stuart, we all do know, but we just can't see it.
Well, we can. I mean, I've heard two different viewpoints from people who were actually at the game at the weekend. One saying actually they felt he might have had a bit of an injury when he was warming up, the way he was moving. Others saying he wasn't. You heard Neil McCann on commentary saying he didn't look as if he was actually doing a warm-up. So that would be a concern as to how he's then injured himself if he wasn't doing much. So if it's the case that he's kind of feigned an injury or whatever and not wanting to come on, then yeah, that'll be the last that we see of him, or it should be the last that we see of him, and we move on. And it does seem that there appears to have been additional contact today between Lille and Rangers, and that you can see that moving on. So I think that's the player side. From the manager side, I've been on this podcast and said to you, the early part of his tenure, I was quite impressed by Russell Martin in terms of how he handled himself in terms of the media, things he was saying. There was an honesty about him. Russell Martin had an absolute disaster of a day in front of the camera yesterday, because I think you can just say, yeah, he didn't feel well, or he's picked up a slight knock during the warm-up, so I couldn't bring him on. And this whole story doesn't blow up into what it is. It was one of a few things I think Russell Martin got horrendously wrong in his post-match interviews. So
what's Russell Martin got right, Stuart?
Well, that's a different. I'm just talking about in terms of in terms of his post-match. I think he got it wrong. Whereas actually, I think early in his tenure, I'd been quite impressed. We talked about that, actually, how he came across. There was an honesty about him. I was fully on board with how he reacted after Motherwell. I think a lot of people were. Stuff like that. People might look back in that and with hindsight and say, well, maybe that wasn't the right thing. I still think he was honest, because we could see that there wasn't effort, etc., during that game. So, yes, we can talk about Russell Martin in terms of performances, his style, whatever else, but I think he was wrong to bring that situation to the attention of all those journalists in the room, because it's created a far bigger story. And the same with Dessers. Didn't need to mention anything about Cyril Dessers in terms of conversations. Russell Martin is creating that. Now, there'll be those who are suspicious about why he's doing that. Is that to kind of take the attention and the focus away from what was another really woeful Rangers performance yesterday? Maybe. Again, only Russell Martin knows that. But yeah, I think there's disappointment in terms of the player. And I was disappointed with how Russell Martin handled the situation as well.
It's just Dane Manhattan, no, that's pure heavy duty negativity. But to try and defend Russell Martin a wee bit, right? And see, now that I've come back on tonight, I can really see how bad my hair. Well, I suppose that would be a funny nickname for a hair and beard, but my hair and beard is so bad. I don't look as quite as suave as Callum. But Cassie's point: why should Martin sugarcoat it? Though player refuses to come on, he should be called out, Callum.
Aye.
Callum's on a mega delay.
You can see that side to it, can't you? Because Stuart, I think if he doesn't mention it, Aye, sorry, I'm getting a wee bit as well. Hopefully it clears up, but I think he would have been absolutely hammered by the fans had they not brought up the Igamane situation, you know. I think he was kind of forced into it. But it's the worst thing that could possibly have happened after that game. You know, the performance was so bad. I thought especially the first half is some of the worst football you'll see I've ever seen from a Rangers game. You know, I mean, it was so comfortable for St Mirren. And then one of your best players, you know, a guy you can sell him for big money, and you're having all this happen with him. I agree with you. You probably, there's been a few red flags. There has been issues there. You know, he did come in looking pretty overweight. I think that's safe to say. You know, it's a bit suspect he was just injured straight away, and we've not really seen much of him. And he didn't exactly light the world on fire in the flashes we did see, but just really, really disappointing. I think what I would say on it though is, you can't necessarily blame the manager for that, but I just think if you've got a stronger manager, that probably doesn't happen. I think you've got a real leader in there who has proper control of that dressing room. You don't have players who are acting up like that and refusing to play and, you know, acting like they've got an injury when they don't. You know, I just don't think that happens with a proper manager in place. So I think ultimately it all does go back to Russell Martin and the buck does stop with him. But look, if it is true that he's faked an injury, you just got to get him out. I think I've seen Alan McCoy saying that on Talk Sport, and it's just not acceptable to be refusing to play, especially when we need him so much, and that's such a troubling position for us at striker. So, really disappointing, really disappointing that it's happened. Hopefully, we can just get our money from him now, and that can be the end of it. I think it was tough for Russell Martin either way. Probably could have handled it better, but yeah, just not what we were needing. So, very disappointing, to be honest.
Don't listen to anybody that goes on TalkSport. Honestly, not worth it. Absolutely not worth it. Right, Stuart, I'm actually going to ask you, because obviously I spoke about this in the afternoon rabble, and I don't want to make this show effectively similar to that. Didn't really delve into the game, right, against St Mirren. I know that nobody really cares, right, about the individual incidents from the game in the grand scale of things of how Rangers are looking right now, right? Why were we so poor against St Mirren, Stuart, from just a purely tactical point of view?
Well, that's a nice, easy question. Thanks for that, Martin. Why? Well, a few things that you brought up on the morning and afternoon rabble. Look, credit to St Mirren, right? I'll give how they went about their business yesterday in the same way as Motherwell went about it in Dundee. They deserve credit for that. Where I would slightly disagree with what you were saying was, I don't think, certainly, well, the Motherwell manager has his style of playing. I think their game against Hearts at the weekend, you saw the real positives of that style, and then you very quickly saw the negatives of it when it starts going wrong. So they do have a style. When it comes to Presley and it comes to Robinson, I don't think they did anything tactically that you think, wow, that's a stroke of genius. They set their teams up well. They've got big guys and they worked hard. And ultimately, at the moment, what you're seeing from a Rangers side is teams working harder than us. St Mirren were quicker to the ball. I think our care of the ball, I've mentioned this, I think, last week, our care in the ball is atrocious. We don't look after it. 10-yard passes flying out the park, etc. I think the gaps between our defence, midfield, and attacks is too vast. There are a lot of things wrong. I think the style as well that we're playing, where we know a centre half's going to roll it at Jack Butland, Jack Butland's going to roll it the other centre half. He might roll it into a midfielder or go to the fullback. I still don't see what the plan is after that. Now, surely they will have worked on these things to say, here's phases of play. So when you've got it, I need you to move here because it's going to drag that St Mirren player with you. But we're not seeing any of that. We seem to have those 3 or 4 passes, and then it seems to be that the players are looking around going, right, what do we do next? And the only times where we've looked dangerous is actually when that plan has kind of went out the window and we've just kind of went, fuck it, let's go for it, you know, and actually it's went a wee bit more gung-ho, and players are actually being bringing a wee bit more of their individual presence to it. So the answer to what's going wrong tactically, I think there are numerous things going wrong tactically at the moment. I think we've got a manager who's overcomplicating things, it feels. And for whatever reason, either players aren't buying into it. I would also question some of their appetite and their endeavours at the moment, because for a Russell Martin who was appointed based on high press, high energy, the most running of any team, I'm sorry, you're not seeing that from these players. These games, we're 2 to 3 yards, sometimes more, away from winning second balls. You know, it's very, very easy for teams. And I think the gaps that we have between, like I say, our defence, midfield and attack, they're just so vast at the moment. We're very open. So not taking care of the ball leads to turnovers, and teams can play through us very quickly. So there's not just one answer to that question, Martin. I think it's kind of, and I'm not a tactical genius by any sense. There'll be people who would take that, but that's just, I start from a position of, is this team working hard enough? And I think the answer to that at the moment is no. That's fault on the manager. And I would also put some blame on the players as well, because they're the ones that go on that white line, and they need to put that effort in. And it's if a Rangers team puts in the effort and starts, winning balls, winning second balls, winning 50-50s, then I think that we have the better players than these teams. So then that should then be able to come into the fore. But we're nowhere near that at the moment. And we're allowing teams to come into games and gain confidence, gifting them goals, let's be honest, and then making it a really, really hard task for ourselves.
The reason I asked that, Callum, was because in all this Igamane, Martin carry on, and the fans aren't happy with Martin, etc., the players seem to be getting a bit of a free pass in all this.
I'd agree with you there, because look, as Stuart says, they're the ones going the white line at the end of the day. They're the ones who have to implement the manager's style of play and carry it out in the park. And I think a lot of it is definitely attributable to the manager. When I'm watching the game, like see yesterday, I just thought we never had an outball to play forward. The attackers were always so isolated, like Stuart was saying. That midfield wing also just doesn't work. But what really frustrates me, and I think it's such a big issue for us, but see, whenever our defence have the ball, they're just constantly slowing it down, whether it's Suter constantly looking both ways before he picks his pass. Fernandez does it as well. I think Max Aarons as well always wants way too many touches in the ball, and he never really wants to stay in his position, So there is a lot of tactical issues, but I mean, that squad, we've spent a lot of money this summer. He has had quite a lot of license to go out and get players in. And can you really say any of them look like improving us? Not really many. I'd maybe argue the left-hand side's looking a bit stronger. I think probably the few positives you would take for yesterday was I thought Magoma was kind of all right. I think he looks probably better than what we had at left-back. And I still think, to be fair, JD Gassama, quite like the look of it. And you can see he's trying stuff, and he always really works hard on that left-hand side, but I just think there's nothing around them. And let's be honest, guys, we all knew it was going to happen. We've seen that lineup. He's not even playing a striker. What's this? That's just not going to work against, a team like St Mirren in the SPL. They're going to sit deep. He's not going to have the space to sort of create for other players and all that. So a lot of the players, I thought like Rothwell, for example, I stuck up for him quite a lot, but I thought he had a terrible game, a really, really poor game at the weekend, and I do quite like him, but just his passing was so, like Stuart says, some of the turnovers in possession are just dreadful, just kicking passes that are easy right into the stands and all that. Thought Raskin wasn't great, didn't really offer much. Ant-Man didn't really offer much. Lyle Cameron, they should have scored his goal, Asgard, clever feet at times, but just not really offering much, Outside of Magoma, and I say maybe Gassama, maybe Butland, I'm not really getting anyone else pass marks for that. So I think a lot of it's tactical. They clearly, there's clearly is issues there with the manager. It looks like he's not got full authority of that dressing room. That style of play, whatever it is, clearly hasn't clicked yet. What annoys me? People are always saying about Russell Martin, though, or, if his plan A doesn't work, he doesn't have a plan B. But I don't even see the plan A. I don't see the plan A. I don't see how we're trying to score goals. The striker always is a total graveyard shift. We don't create any chances. Like, it's so honking, guys. Both boxes, like we can't defend, and then we just look hopeless going forward too. It's actually worse than I thought it would be, to be honest. I thought we might have a bit of pain, but we just don't look like beating a single team in Scotland. So it's pretty dark from top to bottom. I think players, yes, got to take a look. Manager, but I think we're also got to be talking about the recruitment team now. Your men like Farewell, Purdy and all that, because that's a lot of talent in the door, and we look, pish, frankly.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money in the door, Stuart. Out the door, sorry.
Absolutely. It's just on. I mean, there was a point in the second half where a ball got rolled into Danilo, and what he's absolutely dying out for is a Rangers player running towards so he can just lay it off. And there was nobody within 10 to 15 yards of him, And same with Asgard. I disagree with Martin in terms of the decision to put him there. But what you're needing then with that kind of false nine is then players running in behind him. He's going to act as a bit of a focal point. I'm a bit of a big lad. I'm going to attract some of these St Mirren defenders. Right, let them come to me. But actually, you need to go beyond. There is none of that happening. I think in terms of recruitment, I'm not quite at that stage where I think the recruitment has been a shambles. I think we've signed decent players. I don't think there is a way back for Russell Martin. Now, I was thinking about something, and you've said it actually in a couple of shows where it doesn't matter now if he wins on Wednesday night and he wins on Saturday. You've already made up your mind, and when you've got, and you wouldn't be the only one thinking that. That was the same as Philippe Clement said it on this podcast. Philippe Clement could won 7 games in a row, but if he lost to 8th, the fans would have then just been after him. Once a manager has fans at that point, it's only going to end one way. Where I do have some slight hope, and that is I don't feel that this is a Philippe Clement taking over a Michael Beale squad, where he must have walked in the door and
that's
thought,
a good point.
What the hell have I got my head? What is this? What have we signed here? I think a new guy coming in, I'm stepping ahead here, probably could look at that squad and say, do you know what? I think there's decent players in there. I think the recruitment hasn't bad. For whatever reason though, it's not working in terms of this style. And I still put in our chat earlier, I think you could still take a broom to that dressing room because there is something not right in that dressing room. As much as he deserves criticism, I'm not entirely convinced that Russell Martin is asking these players to go out and play as slow as they are. So why is that happening? Maybe he is. Maybe I'm wrong. But that would seem very strange to me because you have evidence from his previous sides that that's not what they've done. So why is it happening?
Well, he never takes any responsibility, Stuart. James is right. He never takes any responsibility.
Yeah, well, I wonder. I mean, he said after Motherwell, was it Motherwell? He said, if I tell them to do something and they do it and we still get beat, then it's all on him. And his point at the Motherwell game was, I told them to do things and they didn't do it. So actually, that's on them. I cannot, maybe it is, I could be completely wrong, but I cannot believe for 1 second that he's asking John Souttar, for example, to take 5-6 touches to get the ball moving. I just do not believe that.
Sorry, Stuart. I've got to come back to you on that straight away. Callum, I'll come to you in a wee second, right? But I've got to come back to you on that straight away. That's the ability that John Souttar's got, though. That's all John Souttar can do. We've seen it countless times. Now that's up to Russell Martin then to change his way of playing so that it benefits John Souttar in a way that he can play the game. You can't keep saying to John Souttar, who's now 28, John Souttar, 27, 28, something like that. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's possibly on Martin.
Possibly not, but I think Callum's right in what he said earlier. John Souttar at times can play a first-time pass. He's not doing it. Now, maybe that's just because he doesn't have the confidence to do it, but there are times where there are passes on and these players are not doing it or they're taking the wrong option. I'm not trying to defend Russell Martin here, but I I think there is a stench still within that dressing room. We've brought in 10 players. I think you needed to bring in 20, to be honest. And I know that's not possible, but I think there has been a rot that is set in within that dressing room that I said last week, if Russell Martin could have had his perfect way, he'd have said, you, and you're staying. The rest of you, off you go. And it would have been a complete refresh because it needs, and that's why actually, do you know what? See if Igamane is like that and he doesn't want to be here and that's his attitude, on you go then. If Dessers is kind of indicating that he wants to go, okay then, on you go. Let's get some new faces in. What I would say about those new faces, and if it is a Miovski or something like that, well, we need to fucking start creating some chances for them because at the moment you could freaking have Haaland up there. And I don't think it makes the slightest bit of difference because we are creating nothing for our number 9s. And that is a massive problem.
Well, let me ask you, Callum, just on Joe Rothwell. A lot of people talking about him at the moment, right? And there's not a lot of fans are happy with him. Our very own Craig, is there a physical issue with Rothwell for you, Callum? Is there even an issue? Do you see an issue?
No, I definitely do see an issue. And I mean, I was sticking up for Rothwell a wee bit earlier in the season because I thought, although he was lacking a bit of mobility for me, as Craig's pointed to there, I still thought he looked quite good in the ball. I thought he looked like quite a tidy midfielder who could kind of link the play up quite nicely and all that. But I think the last few games, even that's kind of gone. I thought he was really, really poor against Mirren. Just his overall passing, choice of passing, some of his slackness in possession was really poor. But yeah, I think that's the key issue with Rothwell for me is he just doesn't cover the amount of space I want my Rangers centre midfielder to. You know, you look at a guy like Lyle Cameron, who's been used kind of sparingly, but I think you look at him, sort of what he offers team in terms of mobility, the sort of runs he can make past the defence, you know, breaking the lines and all that. You just didn't get that for Rothwell at all. He just doesn't have the ability for it. And I don't know if that's maybe he's just not up to speed with his fitness necessarily, but I don't know why that should be because he's had a full pre-season. Maybe he's just not very quick and that's just not part of his game. But you know, all the Leeds fans were saying there's a good creative player there who can create offensively, and I just don't think we've seen that at Rangers. As I say, I think we've seen good flashes for him at points, and you know, I definitely don't believe he's a mug of a footballer by any means, but just no offering anything going forward and really lacking mobility on the pitch. So I think it's a big problem. Just the lack of ground he sort of covers, but I also just don't think we've got any balance in that midfield. Like he's constantly changing it up, and I don't think that helps at all because you know what I mean, these players need to get used to playing with each other, and he's constantly shifting it about. I don't think he knows what his best 11 is. You know, never mind his best midfield. To be honest, I think the one good thing is we are beginning to kind of get rid of some of the duffers. You know, no more Cifuentes in there, which is good. I think Barron's not really got much of a place in the team anymore either. But yeah, not on Craig's point. Ultimately, I think Rothwell got to be a lot better. He's not moving enough for me. He's not offering anything clever with his movement. But he's just been a bit rubbish in general. I think his overall game needs to improve. To be fair, I will give him a bit of credit because he himself did. He called out his own performance, which is good to see. You know, players taking a bit of accountability themselves. I also was kind of annoyed by his whole mannerisms in his interview, though. To be honest, I think with him and Russell Martin,
Yeah,
just kind of
I mean, St Mirren didn't create much, and I'm like, how about game?
Exactly.
You were playing the game, mate. What?
Exactly, mate. It did my head in, to be honest. They seem a bit too casual and lackadaisical. Like after that game, I was raging, and every other Rangers fan would have been the same. You know, my head was completely gone. And then you're hearing these guys that like, oh, it's no big deal, just a Sunday stroll and all that. You know, it does my head in. So yeah, big problems with Rothwell for sure. He's got to be a lot better, to say the least.
Yeah, I've got to ask. Stuart, Paul Robertson, channel member, is saying, not asking. I don't think Rothwell has the pace for the Scottish game.
I just think we're not seeing the true Joe Rothwell, and I don't know the answer to that. I've seen a few folks saying it could be positional, maybe it is a fitness thing, but this was a guy who, you know, played in a very difficult championship down south. You know, if you don't have pace there, you're going to get found out. So I'm not convinced it's a pace thing. He did touch on it himself, didn't he? I think you could see in his interview, he knows he's not playing anywhere near it. Maybe he's trying a bit too hard now because he knows that isn't happening. But for whatever reason,
Don't
we're
think the
not
pace is
seeing
the issue,
type
though.
of-
I don't think
Sorry?
pace isn't an issue. I don't think for his position.
I don't think that's an issue. He's just not playing very well. And let's say it doesn't seem to be the same Joe Rothwell that Leeds fans were very happy with. I think a lot of them would have been quite happy if he'd signed on again. I'm not saying he would have been a starter in the Premiership, but I think they would have been quite happy to have him round about the squad. So something is there. The fact that he's struggling, well, he's not even lasting 90 minutes, maybe tells you that there is something not quite right physically. But why are you starting him then? Again, it just adds another question into the mix about what the manager is doing with that. I mean, Cam's right, by the way. The manager has attempted, what's that, 5 or 6 different midfield combinations already. That does kind of hint that he's struggling a bit with regards to what is the right balance, what's the right partnerships in there. He's trying things and hoping they stick. And we're not seeing any of that. Midfield is an absolute worry.
Just going back to, I want to go to a positive, right? From even moving forward, regardless of Martin's here or if he's not, Stuart, Magoma at left back, he has came in and to me probably been our best player since he's came in. And that's another reason, Stuart, why I don't understand why he was the one who was substituted at half time. That didn't make any sense to me. Maybe there's a tactical reason for it. I don't know. Maybe
I think it was formation wise. Yeah, I think it was formation. I think trying to go 3. I agree with
that 3-4-3. He's got to play on the left hand side of that 4. He's our only creative force.
A week ago, and it was the 3 of us, didn't we? And there was a lot of kind of negativity about bringing in a young boy on loan who hadn't played a lot of first team football. And my God, he was pitched right in, and what a shambles he came into in the opening 20 minutes. But the one thing actually that you took away was that left hand side and that partnership that he seemed to have struck up with Gazam. That looks as if that worked. I've been impressed with him. I think. I said last week, the confidence I had in it was that Brentford, who have a pretty decent track record in terms of their scouting, their analytics, all the data that they put into it, thought that boy was worth spending £10 million on at that age. And I think you've seen some signs, very early days, but I think you've seen some signs of why they've done that. I've been quite impressed with him, I have to say. He's the least of our problems at the moment.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Comment in for Graham, St Mirren fan here. Boo. Was at the game yesterday. Rothwell and Aaron's looked miles off the pace. Well, yeah, we all knew that. I know it was his first game, but Asgard looks extremely lightweight. Extremely lightweight, I think, is being kind to Asgard. Callum, what Russell Martin's thinking was in his first game to play him as a false 9, I don't know. I mean, obviously, if it had worked, we'd be sitting here having a completely different discussion. But at no point, at no seconds in that game did Asgard playing in that false 9 work.
No. Did anyone actually think that was going to work? Seriously? I mean, as soon as you seen that lineup, I don't know anyone who had any positivity about that game. Just you think about it logically, right? What's the whole point of a false 9? Like, the whole point is you have quick wingers who are getting in behind, and he kind of make space for them and makes it easier for the players around them to create chances and all that. But that's just not going to work at St Mirren away. You know what I mean? They're going to be playing deep against us. They're going to sit really deep at points. We're not going to have that sort of space to utilise. But then you just look at playing him in that position just as him individually. As was pointed out there, he just doesn't look like he has the physicality to hold the ball up. He didn't look like he was going to win any headers or, turn a defender or do anything like that. It was just so kind of clueless. And I do get that, there wasn't exactly, other great options there. I think obviously Igamane, there's clearly issues with him at the game. Do you chop Mikey Mirren? I don't know. But it just whatever you do, you don't do that. You don't play a guy out of position at false 9 away from home at Paisley. I just no idea what he was thinking there. But I would largely agree with what that comment said. I thought Rothwell and Aaron's probably our worst players on the pitch. I thought Aaron's absolutely terrible again. I think his positional sense is really poor. Like, he's always trying to come inside. Very sort of predictable with his play, and he just always slowing it down. And I don't see what the boy offers going forward either. And actually, I assume we probably will touch on this, but something I do want to mention as well. Obviously, a lot of controversy and chat about him, but I really think Tav looked a lot better when he came on. And I'm not saying he's the answer. I'm not saying we should be keeping him or whatever. But I think right now, with our options at right back, you should be playing him because Aaron's has not shown it at all. I think Tav's movement's better. I think he gets up and down a wee bit more. He's probably more capable of getting you a goal or an assist. You know what I mean? So as much as we don't like him and Tav's not the answer, we all know that. I'd be playing him ahead of Aaron's all day. I think Aaron's has been honking, man. I think that was probably his worst game there.
I think a lot of that Stuart comes down to
Martin,
experience we have. Yeah. Oh, sorry, on you go.
Just on the Asgard thing, sorry, very quickly. Baffling that you would play 2 wingers and then have a false 9.
Yeah.
So who exactly are the 2 wingers? Which I'm assuming what you're wanting for them is to get to the byline.
Martin's wanting them to cut inside, link up with Asgard, little 1-2s. That was never going to happen. Never going to happen.
And by the way, that's not actually that's playing into St Mirren's head because what you're then making it's very congested. I think if you've got 2 wingers and both of them we have seen at times like to get to the byline, then you want fricking somebody in the box. And in fairness, by the way, what a save by the St Mirren goalie. That was the one time we actually maybe did something like that. So. A kind of strange decision. And actually, I thought, again, we're not creating anything, and I'm not saying he is the answer. But I think when you put somebody like Danilo on, who is a striker, actually, I thought we gave his movement, just gave their centre half something to think about a wee bit, whereas they had a very comfortable afternoon up until that point because I think he's playing out of position, isn't he? That's not his role. It's not why we signed him.
No, just on Tav quickly, Stuart, I don't think it would be that difficult to come on and look better than Aaron's, right? I think a part of that is experience with Tav, and he's seen this film 1,000 times. He knows what to do on the pitch. He knows what to expect. He knows how to come on and help us. He certainly does look a lot better than Aaron's. Does he look a lot better over Aaron's if he starts and he's got to play the majority of the minutes? Stuart, I don't know. Is he the answer? No, he's not. Do we need to upgrade in that position? Yes, we do. But for the time being, if you're asking me, Martin, who would you start at right back in a really important game right now for Rangers? I'm saying Tav.
I'd agree with that. Whether that happens or not is another matter.
Depends on what's in Aaron's loan agreement.
Well, there's maybe a part of that. I know clubs will want to send players out on loan and they get game time, but we cannot be a club that just says, well, we'll just play them regardless of how they're performing. That there has to be some element where the guy knows that he has to up his game so that he's getting he's in that team on merit rather than just because he's got a loan agreement that says he's in the team. I thought, again, Tav, I think you're right. There is an experience to him. I think you do see probably something that does get overlooked. He's got a quality on the football, James Tavernier, and he kind of can knit things together. Does almost look as if there's been a couple of times where he's just kind of taken it into his own hands a wee bit as well and just said, you know what, I'm just going to be in and around this box because actually my presence here is again giving them something to think about. Whereas has he got
a freedom? Stuart?
Well, I think at the end, I said to Karen when we were watching it, as I said, by the way, it looks as if the manager is throwing stuff at a wall here and just hoping something sticks because we were just flinging any sort of attacking intent that we had on the bench to it. But so that clearly offered Tav a bit of a freedom. But he's got a quality on the football, and we know for a fact that he's got a knack of popping up and having the ability to get a goal. You know, he had that shot late on. He just offers something there, which I don't know whether Aaron's there's something tentative about his. Can I go and do that? Can I be that person that, you know, drives forward and with the ball? Or again, do they feel, well, they've got to play in this sort of system? I don't know. There just seems to be something that's restricting him, because it does look quite negative when he gets the ball. A lot of time he does slow it down, does look to want to give the ball away. There was one point, I think, in the Bruges game where actually he just put his head down and he started running. And he went by players and they had to foul him. I think it was one Rothwell just hit the outside. We need to see more of that. You know, players starting. The one thing I would say we absolutely lack is players other than Gassam who are willing to take on an opposition player. You know, and just have, which, you know, trying to pass it into the net, we're getting nowhere. At times you need somebody to just take that bit of responsibility and say, do you know what, particularly when you're playing against a low block, I'm taking that ball round you, because what that then does is it then disrupts the rest of that low block system, because somebody's got to break out of that at some point, and that then frees, and it's like a domino effect. We are seeing not of that. Gassam is probably the one. Ant-Man seems to have, you know, I don't know what's going on there. But at least we need more of that from players. And I think Aaron's does have that ability. You know, we've seen it in his previous clubs. He's came here with a bit of a reputation. But at the moment, you're playing James Tavernier, 100%.
Yes, you are. Right, Peaceful Warrior has gifted a Rangers Rabble Podcast membership. Peaceful's also a channel member as well, so thank you for the extra support, Peaceful Warrior. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. Our very own Brian, who's been a member for 37 months. I can't believe I've known Brian that long. Even my positive mind is basically drained. Chucking players under the bus leads you to only one thing: P45 for the head coach. Just a quick yes or no. If you were the Rangers CEO, so just yes or no. I don't want Stuart. Yes or no, right? Would you sack Russell Martin, Stuart? Yes or no, Stuart?
Yes, because
yes or no, Stuart.
Yes
or no.
Yes, because
right.
it's going
Callum.
Yeah, I would.
Callum.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
See how easy that was, Stuart? Did you see how easy that was?
No, that wasn't. Because it's not going to happen now.
No, it's not. But I was asking, would you do it?
Would I do it?
Not whether it's going to happen. Would you do it right now?
What's going to be interesting, Martin, is see Sunday. They're all over here. Every single one of these, the new board, is meant to be at that game. See if let me finish. I'm trying to make my point, Martin. They've got distance between themselves and what's currently happening. See if it goes horribly wrong on Sunday. There is no distance. They will see it firsthand what Ibrox is going to feel like and sound like if this goes wrong on Sunday. They will be under no illusions come if it doesn't. So, you know, it might. Patrick Stewart is chief exec. That decision might be getting taken out of his hands, because there might be a board meeting right away to say, hold on, what's going on here? So it'll be an interesting.
Did you lie to me, Stuart? Did you lie to me about your job?
Why is that?
Because you sound awful like a politician. That's all I'm saying.
I just think I think it's more. I think there's more to it, Martin.
It's a simple right now at 8:15 on a Monday night. I come to you as the owner of the football club.
Yes, based on what I've seen, yes.
You can't even give me a yes. You've got to add in that extra bit. Yes, you would. So Stuart, everybody, just so you know, right now, Stuart would jump the gun and sack Russell Martin. Shocking behaviour from Stuart. Shocking behaviour.
Move on.
Oh, it's like trying to get blood out of stone, trying to get a yes or no answer out of Stuart. Right, okay. The famous RSC's back in with a super sticker. Thank you very, very much for that. The famous RFC. Paul Robertson has joined as a YouTube member as well. So thank you very much, Paul, for the support. And as I always say, I hope that you enjoy all the extra content. Right, now, I'm going to ask this question, and I'm also going to use it to ask another question, right? So, Callum, Curtis wants to play off the left. How do you feel about Moore blocking his development? I don't think it's so much that he always wants to play off the left. I think Finley's happy playing across that whole attacking midfield. I don't really think it's that much of a bother to him. So I don't think it is, but I'll get you to answer that question anyway, Callum. And the second question is, does he start against Bruges?
Right. Okay. So first, I'd say difficult to say so far, but I think there's definitely a decision to make there. I mean, I'd say from looking at Mikey Moore, we've not seen much of him. I think jury's still very much out. Would I say he's made a massive impact from what I've seen so far? I don't think he's struck me as a guy who's really going to, take Rangers to the next level. Obviously, it's very early days, and he's coming into a total shit show, frankly, with the messier tactics and all that. I think on Finley Curtis, what I'd say on him is just really impressed by kind of the basic prerequisites he shows whenever he comes on. He always has that sense of urgency. He's always playing with a degree of intensity about him, looking to play forward. And you really notice it as well, because I think you see that lacking for so many of the other players. Too often they're looking to play the kind of risk-averse pass or not take their man on, just play it backwards. And I think Curtis was really impressed me as he's always looking to beat his man, get a shot off, get a good pass off. He has that real intent and sense of urgency whenever he plays. So I think he probably deserves it. I mean, the amount of goals this guy's got off the bench for us, it's kind of difficult at the same time, because I don't think Gassama's necessarily done much wrong either, but maybe he'd actually be better suited to coming off the bench and sort of torching teams with his pace a wee bit. So I think, to be fair, based on how he's performed, he probably does deserve a start. And it's probably a decent game for him, given, I think, sadly, we all think we're probably going to be papped out. I can't really see us getting past Bruges. So it might be a good game to just try him out a wee bit, So, yeah, it's maybe as a bit of concern. You've also got Moore, Gassama, Finley Curtis. Obviously, you've got Oscar Cortez, even like Rabbi Matondo, a few of these other guys in the picture. They can also play that position as well. So they definitely need to cut the squad down, that's for sure. And what he really needs to do, I think, and we've not seen any of this, but get a kind of best 11. And I know you don't need to have like an iron when you're playing every week, but just a kind of semblance of what our sort of strongest 11 is going to look like and what our sort of bench options are. Because I think right now it's just way too unclear and all that. But yeah. No, Finley Curtis, very impressed with him. Took his goal really well. I probably would start him. I think he does deserve it, to be honest.
Sure.
But you've seen more of the young lad play. I mean, could he play up top, Martin?
Yeah.
I mean, could.
Yeah, he could.
Can he develop? I'm not. I mean, I think probably going to play Paisley and playing against three giant centre halves as a young 17-year-old. That maybe that's not the game to do it. But I'm just wondering, as he develops, because the one thing that you have to say about Curtis is he's got an ability to put the ball in the back of the net, and just wonder, are we maybe missing a trick here with him being wide? He scored a barrel load of goals at the youth level, but I just wonder, going that next step up, could that be something that we could see maybe becoming more of a striker rather than a wide man?
Probably not. I mean, he can play. He can play up front, but he scored the barrel load of goals from a deeper position. He didn't score them really from playing that number 9. But I suppose at the end of the day, listen, Finley will hit a shot for anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. He's got real confidence in his ability. Does he need to bulk up a wee bit and maybe get a wee bit stronger? And does he need? And there's so much in his game that still needs to improve. Absolutely. Before I think he can become a real serious, consistent first teamer. I still think he can come on and do his part like he did against St Mirren. But as an actual number 9, the real answer is I don't know. But I don't think so. Because I do know that, I mean, he played a lot of time in the B team as a 10. We don't play a 10. So it'd be tough to be really the left or the right for me. But if we get a new manager, hopefully, and he wants to, and we get, if we get Steven Gerrard, could Will Curtis plays that number 10 for Steven Gerrard? Yes, he will. I think he's good enough. I think he's absolutely good enough to be able to come on and do that. Like I say, not consistently, because I still think with somebody of his age and his experience, I think they need to be managed correctly.
Yeah.
So they can't be thrown into every single game. But I think when you've just come off the back of, I mean, when he came on the pitch, Stuart, he'd had 2 shots and the rest of the squad had none.
It brings an energy, and I agree with you. I don't think he's ready to start. I think we've seen away in Panathinaikos, he really Rangers struggled, but he really struggled in that kind of environment and stuff like that. So he's clearly still got a lot to learn. I think the physicality is something there, but he's just got that knack, isn't he? He pops up and you can clearly finish, etc. And I just wondered, given that we have invested quite a lot of money on wide players, is there a chance here that he might get more of an opportunity, kind of more through the middle? But look, Finley Curtis just needs to keep doing what he's doing. He's doing himself no harm whatsoever. He sounds as if he's got a cracking attitude. I'm sure he wants to be playing a wee bit more, but hopefully he's got the right people around him saying, well, you know what, I think you just need to remember you are still young, it's maybe not going to quit, but when you get your opportunity, go and show them what you can do. And yeah, again, Finley Curtis is something where I think between pre-season and where we are now has been one of the shining lights and one of the things that we've got a wee bit of hope for going forward, because he's done really well for himself.
Do you know what I really liked? Now, I know how big a Rangers fan Finley is, right? It's in his family. He's one of the biggest blue noses you'll ever meet. And he comes on and scores against St Mirren to get us back in the game. And there's not one smile on his face because he gets it. He absolutely gets what it means to play for the club. Yeah. Now, the more of the type of players that you've got in that dressing room, the better. Obviously, they need to be good enough, right? Because there's no point in just having players that get it but aren't good enough. And like I say, I don't think he's ready to start every single game. I think there's a lot of bits of his game that he has to work on and needs to be managed correctly. Start some games, start other games. But he's got, you mentioned mentality, attitude, he's got all that in abundance. If you were 18, Stuart, right, and you had just come on, regardless of what the scenario was, and you scored for Rangers, you would be buzzing. Absolutely buzzing, but not. He was heat down, no happy, move, let's get back and let's get another goal. Which I think also in a silly way shows maturity.
But what's also helped him is those goals early in pre-season.
Yeah, no doubt.
Where,
no doubt.
He got his first goal at Ibrox and whatever else, and it was that excitement. Now it's about getting down to business. And we've seen plenty of youth players who've made a breakthrough to the first team and then probably thought, that's it, job done. When in actual fact, that's the job just starting. Now, you've done the first bit. Now you need to go and step it up, because you now need to prove that you should be there on a regular basis. And like I say, he's got a knack of popping up with a goal. That's a great thing to have, whether that's from playing wide or if you could maybe change and he can adapt his game to be more central. I don't know, but that's a nice knack to have, and he's done himself no harm. Actually, again, not something that we need to be worrying about at this moment. Is Finley Curtis.
Right, yes or no, Stuart?
Oh, good on. Yeah, here we go.
Right. Does he start for you on Wednesday?
No.
Right, cool. Do you want to explain? No, I'm only joking. Right, let's. I don't really know if there's much point in previewing the Bruges game, to be brutally honest with you. I think we might do that during one of the afternoon Rabbles. Just a final question to you both, Callum, mate. I'll start with you. We kind of discussed it a little bit at the very beginning, right? But Lille seemed to be back interested in Igamane. Are you worried, Callum, that due to the weekend and Russell Martin's outburst, that initial bid that we received where we knocked back because it wasn't enough, it might be slightly lower than that we let him go for now? Do you think that's affected his price?
Well, of course, that's something that's going to be factored into asking price, I think. It's another example of, I think, just poor leadership for Russell Martin there. I kind of, as I did mention, I can stick up for him in some sense, and I think he did have to mention it, but I think he could have done it in so much a more sort of diplomatic way. And now I think you are at a real risk of that price going down a wee bit. Now, I don't know if it's going to necessarily lose us the deal or lose us a massive amount of money, but it's not ideal. It's really not ideal at all. He was probably your star asset that you're looking to get big money for, and it's going to be a lot more difficult to really get a top asking price for him now. I think it's good that we at least have a club who are interested for him, so if he does have this attitude problem, we can offload him. It looks like there will be bids there for him. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It looks like we probably won't get as good as we maybe could have for him. But I think now, if it has materialised that he has faked this injury and he's refusing to play, just get rid, take your money. We'll still get a good chunk of change, to be fair, and credit to Neil Scopper and all that for recruiting him, because we'll make a decent profit on him. But if it's the case that his head's not in the right place, and just get rid for what we can take and reinvest it back in the team.
I'll ask you that with a super chat, Stuart, for our very own Gaz, channel member. Thank you very much, Gaz. What I can see happening is Lille will drag it out until, for the next 10 days or whatever, until Monday or whenever the transfer window shuts, and then say we'll give you, 4 million, and we will take it. Will we take 4 million, Stuart?
Listen to David Edgar earlier, who actually has the opposite view, that actually Russell Martin's comments won't have any kind of impact on it, because he wouldn't be surprised that actually it was his agent and Lille who had some involvement in Igamane saying I'm not playing anymore. So I think everybody knows what Rangers are after. Lille will be absolutely aware of that. I see us all of a sudden going from we want 15 million to 4 million. No, I think you would have serious questions then about the running of the football club. At the end of the day, yeah, look, is Igamane wanting to go? Should he probably go? Yeah, because if he's not wanting to be here, but Rangers will still need to get the best price that they possibly can for him. So I still think we will make very decent money on Hamza Igamane, and I think it'll be very interesting to see how his career pans out, because if this is true, then it's that petulance and stuff like that might not stand him. And let's be honest, he hasn't done a lot in the game yet to really have that arrogance and that petulance about him. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But I think if Lille come in and offer 4 million, then I'd just know keep him here. I wouldn't just be selling him just for the sake of it.
Keep him here, let him sit with the under-19s and see how he likes it. RFC 72 has gifted a Rangers Rabble membership as well, so thank you very much, RFC 72. The Famous is back in for another super chat. Guys, do you think we are rested for Wednesday? The players are rested for Wednesday. Don't think it really matters, Callum.
No, probably not. I mean, you probably will rest some of me. I think the season is literally lying on this game next week, the other weekend. I mean, sorry, you know what I mean? Like, I think you're talking a defeat or even a draw against that mob. The league's looking like it's probably going to be too far. So I think, to be fair, I probably even would consider it. I think we're probably going to get papped out by Bruges. I mean, I can't really see us overcoming that. I know you do have to really go for it, but I think that game at the weekend is so much more important. Because I think, to be fair, if we are looking to find positives, you think if we beat Celtic, and they're not a great side, let's remember, I think this is one of the poorer Celtic sides I can remember in a while. We're still a shambles, but if we can beat them, it's only 3 points. You can maybe start building some positive momentum. I think even if we do beat Bruges, it's not really doing much for Russell Martin, to be honest. So maybe he will rest a few. I wouldn't really blame him for doing it, to be honest. I think full strength to try to get 3 points on Sunday. That's the real important game for me, anyway.
It'd be amazing if on Sunday night we were only 3 points behind Celtic after the start to the season that we've had. That would be absolutely mental. The Trying Scotsman has gifted a Rangers Rabble membership as well, so thank you very much, Trying Channel member as well. Thank you very much. That went to Rosie McClune. There we go. And just quickly, Stuart, another final super chat, I should say, from Charles for Wednesday night. Gassama on the left, Moore through the middle, Curtis on the right.
I don't see that being the case. I still think he'll probably go with if Dessers is fit, which he alluded to, I think Dessers will come back in. I think it'll be Kassam on the left, and I think it'll be Ant-Man on the right. But I suppose that does depend on whether Dessers manages to make it back. But it did seem quite positive that would be the case. So that would be the three that I think it will be. I just don't think he'll pitch Finley Curtis in this game. At the end of the day, he's as unlikely as it probably seems that we're going to get back into this game. Russell Martin will clearly believe that it's still doable, and I think he'll go for that kind of tried and tested to potentially what he feels has given them the best opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and if he does go with that would probably tell you that he's resting Ant-Man and not risking Dessers for Sunday. That's what that would tell me.
Potentially, yeah.
Because if I'm the manager, I'm looking at Sunday, and like Callum's saying, that's a must-win for us. We have to win that, more so than what we have to do again. Which sounds crazy because you want Champions League, you want that Champions League money. I just think that's a far too far a step.
I just don't think.
And finally,
can you see Bruges not scoring?
No, God, no. I can't. I struggle to see us scoring. I don't. They will score.
So we've talked about the fact that we're creating nothing. And you say, but the flip side of that is this team keeping a clean sheet at the moment.
No, impossible. It's absolutely. We concede too many shots on goal to keep clean sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the trying Scotsman member for 20 months, Curtis didn't look happy post-match. The lad gets it. Yes, he does. He absolutely does. Right, that will do us, folks. We are back tomorrow morning for members for the morning rabble, and then the afternoon rabble tomorrow as well. And then tomorrow night at 7 p.m, we do have the live members stream as well. And then we've got all the coverage on Wednesday for the game. So thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Callum. Thank you for all the super chats tonight. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for all the comments as well. The new members and all the new subscribers. I'm just going to check while I'm here, because before I came on, we were about 9 subscribers away from 15,000. 4 subscribers away from 15,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, there's got to be 4 of you watching. I mean, I don't want to keep Stuart and Callum here all night, but I will until 4 people subscribe.
I've got loads to talk about, so that's...
Yes, I know, yeah. I'll just keep asking Stuart yes, no questions. So
we should have a conversation. I'm not saying tonight, but at some point we'd quite like to delve into the kind of Thirlwell, Purdy, kind of Patrick Stewart side of it, because I think that is a.
Does that not make a good rabble report, Stuart?
Well, we might do that. I'll say it very quickly. People talk about Russell Martin's style, right? If you remember going back to the press conference when he was introduced to everybody, Patrick Stewart talked about the football club deciding on the style of football that they believed would win them domestically and in Europe. And then he talked about getting data and analysts looking at things, and they then gave them a list of managers that they believe would be able to implement that style. So when we talk about Russell Martin's style not working, and I don't believe we've even seen a Russell Martin style yet. I don't know what style it is, but the style that they talked about in Thirlwell, high press, high aggression, lots of running and stuff like that. That was the football club's decision to do that, and they've then given that information to data analysts who have given the list, and they've went with Martin from that. So there is something there about that kind of view about whether that is the right style that is going to win you games domestically, because so that there has to be some eyes on them regarding this appointment.
Remember I said earlier that the only positive we've really got is that it was sunny outside earlier.
It's dark now.
It's dark now, so that positive's went away. But the new positive is 15,000 subscribers. We have reached it. We have made it.
See a bit of padding there, Martin, for you.
Yes,
that's what happens.
It was excellent. It was
nothing to do with what I was saying, by the way. It was just time.
No, superb. Can I just say a big, massive thank you to every single person. When I first started this, it'll be 5 years in November. when I first started this and we had 0 subscribers and I got like 40 views on my first video, I never thought I'd be sitting here one day with an extremely handsome guy in Stuart and reaching 15,000 subscribers. It's incredible. So thank you very, very much, everybody. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. It's only 5 years. It's just the beginning. Let's now get to 100,000. Let's just enjoy 15,000, shall we? So I'm going to play the members outro, which hasn't got all the new members updated on it yet, but this is just a thank you to everybody. So thank you for helping us reach 15,000 subscribers. Absolutely incredible. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Callum. Thank you, everybody. And we shall speak very, very soon.